and Michael Savage's trickle-down tyranny crushing Obama's dream of the socialist states of America. And that can pretty much be found everywhere at the moment, except where it's already sold out or where Stalinist-type bookstore employees are violating contracts by purposely hiding the book. Anyhow, let me now welcome in studio Bob Guzzardi, my co-host today and the editor of the Liberty Blog, thelibertyblog.org. Bob, welcome.
Thank you very much. A comment on Pesach is, perhaps this is my own individual view of it, but prior to the passage where Pharaoh rose and knew him not, Joseph has now risen to the point where he is the Pharaoh's number one guy. He is the courtier of courtiers. And what does he do? He concentrates the wealth in the hands of a few at the expense of the many. It was not necessarily many Jews, it was the Egyptians. And my view is that from a secular point of view, you can make the argument is that when there is this concentration of wealth and power in a few, there will necessarily at some point in time be a revolution. In fact, the Pesach story is not about a secular explanation, although there's always secular explanations. It is about the fact that God led us out of Egypt. Hashem personally flew over and protected the Jews from the plague of the first son. It was Hashem who led us out of Egypt and out of slavery, and we were in slavery because God had withdrawn his presence from the world. And there is a view of history from the religious point of view that bad things happen to Jews and everybody else when God withdraws his presence from the world, which is why we should try to do those things that will reconnect us with Hashem. That's my religious message for today. But more particularly, going back down into the secular world of the nitty-gritty, on the 24th of April, there is a primary election. This is an extremely significant election because Republicans, for the most part, have real choices, and there is one very, very significant Democratic primary. So let me start with the Republicans first. Tom Smith is running in a field of five Republicans to be nominated as the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate to challenge Bob Casey. Tom Smith is my guy. Tom Smith will be on the radio show later today. Tom Smith is a union coal miner who moved and took a big risk, investing all his money and mortgaging his house and his property, and invested in a coal mine in 1980. And by 2010 was able to sell that coal mine for tens of millions of dollars. It is the American Horatio Alger classic story, rags to riches. It's quite a story. Tom, for all his wealth, still wears cowboy boots, still owns a farm, still farms a 400-acre farm. The next one is Roger Howard versus Dominic Pileggi. Roger Howard is a Tea Party principal grassroots candidate with a organization of Tea Party people in southern Chester County and in Delaware County, challenging Dominic Pileggi, the Republican majority leader of the Senate, union-financed Dominic Pileggi. You can find more about this candidate and about Dominic Pileggi at thelibertyblog.org, thelibertyblog.org, where I have blogged on Dominic Pileggi, his abysmal record of fiscal recklessness. He has voted for 7 of 8 of Ed Rendell's budgets. He voted for Act 120, which increased indebtedness on Pennsylvanians by $1.6 billion. There's another race outside of outside the Southeast. Dr. Jim Brown is challenging Sam Smith, the Speaker of the House. The significance to us is that every representative and every senator votes on bills that affect every single one of us. There's a view to being geographically provincial and looking at your own representative, which is your representative to the General Assembly and to the government. However, what happens in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, affects you probably even more than what your own representative does. Sam Smith is the Speaker of the House. He controls the agenda. Jim Brown has knocked on 5,000 doors. I am recommending that he use robocalls to accomplish his purpose. $1,000 can reach 100,000 targeted voters. But now on the Democratic side, there's an extremely significant and interesting primary for Attorney General. On one hand, there is Kathleen Kane, whom I've only spoken to once, but who impresses me. She is the independent, self-financed from Scranton, Pennsylvania. She is a prosecutor, not a politician, she says, and I think that's true. She has self-financed about over $2 million into her campaign. She has been endorsed by Bill Clinton publicly and openly. On the other side is Obama team Patrick Murphy, who was just endorsed by David Axelrod, one of Barack Obama's number one fundraisers. In the Democratic Party, this is the non-establishment Kathleen Kane, independent of party leadership, independent of union leadership, against the Uber insider Patrick Murphy. We have a number of extremely important and sensitive issues coming up before the Attorney General. We need somebody who is independent. Clearly, in my opinion, Dave Freed, the Republican candidate who is unopposed and is endorsed by the Republican establishment, is not the guy. You can read more about it at the Liberty blog. Go to Liberty blog, thelibertyblog.org, and put in Dave Freed, Kathleen Kane, Roger Howard, Dominic Pileggi, and you will find out more about these candidates and who do you think best represents you and, more importantly, will prevent Pennsylvania from going bankrupt.